Speaking of auto pay, there are plenty of guys from Indiana that will be able to go on that. A lot of Raheem Lane signed UDFA deal.
Yeah.
What's that?
Undrafted free agent.
Undrafted free agent. Yeah,
It makes it look a lot with 4 letters. It makes it look a lot more complicated than it is.
Oh, and capitalized. They were capitalized. Yes. I'm like, what? I was
undrafted. Like, in that case, the D.
It's like the USDA.
It should just be UFA. But what? Yeah, exactly. It looked like it's government regulated or something like that. Like, it had to pass through the bureaucracy somehow and an agency. But no, yeah. So
Caleb Jones, Ty Fryfogle, Raheem Lane,
Ryder Anderson got a mini camp invite. Peyton Hendershot. So Peyton Hendershot and Fryfogle are both going to Dallas. Caleb Jones to Green Bay. Raheem Lane to the Chargers, and then Ryder Anderson got a mini camp invite with the Packers. So that's the whole setup there. That's how everybody ended up. I mean, I think that was about what everybody expected, but the big sort of change, I guess, in terms of what you would expect going into the season was Ty Fryfogle. And it does seem like his performances were pretty harshly scrutinized for how his senior year went, obviously, because I mean, he might have gotten drafted if he entered last year. But he certainly had I think he came into this thing thinking that, day 2 at least was a possibility. If not day 1.
How many guys actually, honestly, hurt themselves by coming back to Indiana for last season instead of leaving after the breakout season the year before?
I mean, I think just Ty, honestly. I think Fryfogle was the only one that really hurt himself.
McFadden wasn't. I mean, McFadden he was pretty strong.
Yeah. 5th round was. I mean, I think it was higher than you would have expected. I mean, McFadden's deal was like McFadden had a strong season. I mean, like McFadden just bolstered who he is. And the issue, I mean, I just read some of the critiques. I mean, like one thing that's interesting is the NFL.com critiques are harsh. If you think like you have to sort of really dig to find out what people really, really think. The stuff they put up on NFL.com, like they get after you on that. Just like your scouting page on the main NFL website is rough. I mean, it points out that he's like running backs run away from him. If you bounce out runners run away from him. I was like, that's rough. That's harsh. I don't know that it's false. But it's, I mean, you went there. So yeah, no, I think but it was a lot of the same critiques. It's like his athleticism is not over the top great. His length is only so much, but I think the positive thing on there on the NFL one was his neck is as thick as a quad, which is not false at all either. So I mean, and I think McFadden's one of those guys that'll hang around for a long time just because, like, at that level, when it comes to all else being equal, intellect matters, hustle really matters,
and heart
really matter. Heart really matters. Like
he's got all
really
those.
Have to want to live it. And there are guys that have enough talent that can get by with not, that just have natural gifts that keep them in for a while, and people will keep giving them chances, and eventually it might work out for them. But like when it comes down to 5th and 6th round guys, the guys that make it are the guys that really, really, really care. And Micah McFadden really, really, really cares. So I mean, like as far as I can't imagine that he didn't score off the charts. As far as his interviews went and stuff like that. I mean, a guy who really gets it. I mean, like you can just see on film, obviously, if you're an NFL scout, that like this guy did the work. This guy did the film study to know where the hole was going to be, how he was going to be able to shoot it, what kind, play diagnosis, being able to read run blocks and know where there's going to be an opening so he can knife in there and make a play, and play, therefore play faster than his 4.6 40, because, if you know where the play is going to go, you can play faster. Basically, if you have a sense of what point you're running to before you start running, that goes a long way. So I think obviously that performed pretty well. I mean, he goes into Don Martindale's defense, and Martindale likes to blitz. So, obviously he's a guy who was really effective as a blitzing inside linebacker. That's really going to help his cause. That really fit. So I think 5th round was as well as you could expect it, for Micah McFadden, and that solid just gets him on a team. So like I said, I don't think he hurt himself. I think Ty Fryfogle hurt himself. Not only it wasn't sticking around that hurt him, it was that there are games when it does not look like he is all in. that hurt himself. I think that's where, like last year when he was fighting for comeback catches and going all out, like this year, I think they saw him give up on routes. And, I think that hurt him. Putting that on film does not help your cause. And I think that stung him. The rest of the guys, Peyton Hendershot obviously was better off, putting another good year on film. I think, and he needed a year to get past. I mean, he didn't have a good 2020. Particularly good 2020, and I think he had to get a year past obviously his arrest. So I think that he's probably better off than he was a year ago. I don't know if Caleb Jones helped to hurt himself. Raheem Lane obviously was out 2020, so he had to do that to get back in an undrafted free agent situation. The guy I think who is worse off than he was a year ago was Taiwan Mullen, just for having been injured. I mean, I don't think he could have come out after last season. But if he could have come out after last season, he would have gone a lot higher. And obviously, he's sticking around for another year because he had to. So, and there are probably other guys, maybe Devon Matthews might have been better off leaving after his junior year than if he would have, So a lot of the guys I think that hurt their draft stock, or their draft stock was injured by reasons that, not really their fault, because of injury or whatnot, stuck around. So they were kind of aware of that.
Indiana also doing well off of the portal, bringing in a wide receiver from Tennessee, former Tennessee wide receiver.
Yeah, I haven't looked into him too much, though. I just saw that yesterday in the midst of running back and forth. But no, I mean, obviously they've done a good job of hanging in there on the recruiting end of it, of just, finding first off, finding transfers who need more playing time, who need more opportunity. They obviously have to add more when it comes to that, basically at wide receiver, just try to get as much talent as they can, because obviously that's just, the wide receiver running back room really just changed over entirely, and they've stayed in the market for those guys. They stayed in the market obviously for defensive tackles, so they keep trying to add guys. I mean, it sounds like it went well. As far as who they added already, I mean, obviously there was a lot of raving about Cam Camper, through spring practice, as well as a lot of guys were happy. The coaches were happy with Emery Simmons, so that speaks well. And I think even basically they're really happy with what they got out of Sean Shivers, the Auburn transfer in the spring so far. So they've kept their heads in there, kept looking for guys, that not too many people might have heard of, but they played someplace else. Obviously got some talent, and just saying, hey, here's an opportunity. Here's a wide open room. Nobody has an advantage here. Nobody has seniority. Nobody has basically anything. Maybe, obviously a couple guys in the wide receiver room have some level of seniority, but, like you're going to have a wide open shot with several other guys we're bringing in at the same time. So you got as much of a crack as they do. So I think that's appealing well to guys, and it's giving them an opportunity to go chase after some people.